Hey,
Oh
look,
my.
there you're live. So you were just talking to yourself the whole
Okay.
time.
Wait, but I'm not because.
Now you're live, yeah. You're in OBS streaming, but okay, so OBS, in
No,
order to
I'm
stream,
confused.
you need streaming software like OBS.
Michael,
You can't
I
just
just
stream.
no. This is ridiculous.
You're live
So,
right now.
I'm live right now, so they hear me. But why do I see a delay there?
Because there's stream delay. That's what it looks like on stream because there's about a second of
Okay,
delay.
so there's stream delay.
before.
Okay. So apparently, I thought I was live, and I wasn't live, and oh my gosh.
Mom.
Okay. So this is like my first time on Facebook Live, and it hasn't been good.
That's YouTube, Mom.
Or YouTube.
Why didn't you
Oh
say
my
Facebook
gosh.
Live, Mom? That's
Okay,
YouTube.
I'm really frazzled.
Oh my god.
I am super frazzled. Okay, so I'm usually using Zoom, so that's why this is all new software for me. So,
Here's the chat.
all right.
Okay.
So here's the chat.
So here's people
I'm
talking.
set, and
You see the
people are
chat
talking.
there, right?
Hi.
Now what you should do is you should maximize OBS Studio. So
they can
enter
see
full
me.
screen. I think I can't really see. So there we go. So now you can see yourself.
Okay.
So what you want to do is you want to keep this window open and look at the chat. If somebody chats here, you look at your phone.
Okay.
And there will be people.
All right. So I got to
talking.
look here
Yes.
and look here,
And if you want to change,
Okay.
if you want to change that scene where you
Michael,
have,
I think I'm enough.
no,
I think
no,
I'm
if
not
you wanna
changing
change
anything.
where you have the website, let me know and I'll
No,
set it
I'm
up
good.
for you again.
Okay. So thank you very much. Leave the room. Let me have my quiet
Alright, I'll
space.
leave the room,
Thank
but
you.
you picked the most awful spot. on the
Michael.
screen.
But I have no choice because I have to be plugged in.
Whatever you said.
Okay, so hey everybody. I am so sorry for the delay. I've had technical difficulties all morning, and apparently I spent the last 15 minutes talking to myself and demonstrating techniques to myself. So we're going to start over. I am Nicole, better known as Fierce Hook, all around the internet. And today we are going to work on the Big Sur blanket. We're going to talk about some techniques. And if you have any questions, feel free to shoot some in the chat. Also, I have created a group on Ribbler, a private group on Ribbler called Fierce Hook Yarnies. And that is for anyone who has or who is making patterns that are my designs or has questions or kind of wants to have like a community. So it's a little community for all the yarnies that are working on everything Fierce Hook. So you could go check that out in the Ribbler page, ask to, be a part of it, and I'll approve. Okay, so let's get started. We are doing the Big Sur Afghan. And there's a couple things about it. Basically, the Afghan sizing is 5 feet by 6 feet. So I understand it is a big Afghan, and I did that purposely. But you can adjust it and make the size smaller to fit whatever needs you have. So this will go on it's a little bit smaller than a twin size bed, as far as a blanket measurement requirement for a twin size bed. So it could be like a comforter. You can put it over the top and have a little bit left to go. Or you can, like I said, there's 2 people. It could be like a blanket for 2 people or a blanket for like a really tall person. So it's really great. And it works up quickly, which is something that I like. We work in rows of counting of 5s and 3s. So basically all the main color is 5 rows, and all of the alternative colors are 3 rows. And that was basically done so that we could lock the stitches in and you could get like a little bit of an effect on them so that you could actually see them lock in with each other. So I figured today what we would do is I would kind of like talk about how I designed the pattern and kind of like the thinking behind it and why I did that, or why I designed in that manner. And it's kind of like picking my brain a little bit. So if you have any questions, put them in the chat. And I just put in the chat, hi. There we go. and then we could do some techniques, and I could show you like a couple things that I did, and we can crochet a little bit. So what I want to do is firstly go through the pattern, which will take another screen that I have. Let's put this here. Okay, so now I can see everybody in the chat. And then I'm going to pull up Ribbler on my tablet. Okay. Okay, so first things first. Yep, 60 by 72, and it's an interconnecting pattern. It is actually known as an extended, I believe it's an extended mosaic stitch. So let me go back in. This is not where I wanted to be. Here, I'm going to edit pattern. Edit. Okay, there we go. So, yes. Okay. You're going to need a size H hook. It's 5 millimeter. I really love Furls Crochet. They're like really awesome hooks. And okay, so we started off with a foundation half double crochet. And basically I chose to do a foundation half double crochet because of a couple different reasons. It's more of a stitch that you could see and count more easily. It also has stretch along the bottom, because what happens with when you do foundation stitches, they're all connected rather than you making a chain stitch and then making another stitch on top of it. So what happens is it's very flexible and it can move, and that's kind of sometimes important for a blanket to, you know, not be so rigid along the edge. And I like it because, you know, we do have to create 174 stitches, I believe it is. Yeah, so 178 stitches. So basically, it's much easier to count foundation half double crochet stitches than it is to, you know, do the chains and then go back into the chains. And I like to also have stitch markers on hand. These from Coco Knits are my favorites. And what I do is I just kind of slip these in. So you can see them. I slip them in every 20 half double crochets that I do along the base, and then that way I can add them up really easily as I go. So we do that, and then what we're doing is it's a series of half double crochets and double crochets, and it's basically because the half double crochets are done at the ends over here, and the double crochets are done 2 rows down. So that's how we're going to be working the pattern. And when you work the double crochet 2 rows down, it cuts on the height. It cuts down the height of that stitch, and it's approximately like the height of a half double crochet. So that's why we do that. And we do the 2 half double crochets at the end to kind of keep everything nice and even and have a nice edge on there. Okay. Is everybody with me so far? Okay. I don't see any questions in the chat. I'd love to like see in the chat like where you're from if you want to put that in. Let's see. I don't know if I'm even getting them. I should be getting them. Okay. All right. Alrighty. So we're just gonna, it's a very easy pattern. We're just gonna go over the so we're going to do a double crochet 2 rows down, and then you're just going to chain stitch, and then you're going to do another, you're going to skip over that double crochet from the last row, and then you are going to double crochet again, chain stitch, double crochet. Now we're going to be working into both loops on the 2 rows down. Oh, we have Sophia from Hungary, Budapest. Hi. So it's a very, very, like I said, it's a very fun pattern. This is something you could do while you're watching TV, something to do while you're streaming. And I really like the effect. And it, as you can see, it locks in. So even though you have this gap, you're going to be putting another stitch here at on the next row. So it'll 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, that's my last row here. So it makes for a dense fabric, but it also is very pliable, and it's great for a blanket. Does anybody have any questions? Oh, what I also like to do is I also like to put a stitch marker at the beginning and the end of both. So then that way I know, this way, I know exactly where to put those last stitches. So that makes things a little bit easier. And I always like to include that kind of notation in my patterns because it's just, I'm very like, if you bought this pattern on Ribbler, you can continue to watch live and chat with Nicole directly from within the pattern. Okay, yes. Enter via your patterns library on the web app. Yes. And then I was also thinking that we can create another time when we can maybe check in next week. And, you know, because we're finishing on, we're thinking on finishing and doing this through March 7th. So we could check in and, you know, weekly or maybe every 2 weeks. So make sure you go and you join the group page so we could find out more. And we'll come up with another time in a day to check in and see if anybody else has questions. Let me just see how the pattern, because I'm actually in a different area of the pattern. Let me see. I'm on my pattern page, so I'm trying to figure out where. Here we go, my patterns. Let's see where the link is. Oh, here it is. Nope, that's the moss stitch. Trying to find the button. Okay. Alright, so that's just basically it. Let's see, I don't know where it is. I'm having technical difficulties today. Alright. So yeah, that's basically basically it. um, Crochet along for a few more minutes, see if anybody else has any questions. Now, when you get to the end, let's just say you want to finish. I'll go over the ending too. I love this pattern because it's also really great. You don't have to just use these colors. I picked 3 because I liked just the color differences and stuff. But another thing that you could do is you could use this as a temperature blanket. And that would look really great because you would just do a row a day. And I did work on a temperature blanket in the past, and this size would be perfect for a temperature blanket because there's 365 rows, and there's so many rows that you don't want to have something you don't want to produce a blanket that's not wide enough, and then you have like this really long skinny piece of fabric that you created. So 5 foot wide is really great. It's a great size to even do a temperature blanket, and you could do a different color on every row for every day, and it'll look really good because they'll just interconnect with each other, and it'll look really cool. So that's a really, you'll have a really great project once you're done. As far as for the ending, if you just wanted to end off, you could look at those last lines. But what the thinking behind what I did was, I think it was half double crochets, I believe. Let me just double check the pattern again. I believe it was half double crochets for the end. And that was basically because you want to just bring everything down. So you would half double crochet. Let me just make sure. So I'm working on like 3 or 4 different projects right now. And I just want to make sure I have the right instructions. Yes. So what you want to do is on the first half double crochet in the stitch from 2 rows below, and then half double crochet in the next stitch. So basically what you're doing is you're double crocheting 2 rows below, and then you're going to half double crochet on top of here, because you want to, at the end, you want to make it all completely uniform, and you want to fill in that gap. So that's the way you're doing that. So it'll be a double crochet, half double crochet. Yes, exactly. That's what it is. Any recommendations for a different yarn? I don't have Caron 1 pound. Oh, yeah, that's not a problem. You can use any kind of acrylic as long as it's worsted weight. So Knit Picks has their own Red Heart. You could use Lion Brand 1 pound, Lion Brand Pound of Love if you want to just get massive yarn in bulk. Just any worsted weight acrylic would work. I just like this because, it's huge. You get, there's 800 yards. But I will tell you, make sure that if you do substitute yarn and you want to make the blanket as big as this one is, you're going to need all that yardage. It's pretty crazy, but it does take that much yardage. No problem. You're welcome. And the other thing too is, it's important once you finish, you always wash what you've already made. You don't really need to block this. The first one that I made, the one that was in the picture, I basically that was another thing about the advantage of making something with acrylic, because especially something this large, it's washer and dryer safe. So I just put it in the washer and ran it through the dryer, followed the care instructions, and it came out and it was totally fine. So that's the only thing I would recommend, because if you did wool, like pure wool, it's not going to. I had a wool blanket from when I was a baby. My mom made me, and I didn't know it was wool. And I put it in the dryer and the washer, and it felted. Like I now have a felted granny square blanket. But I still love it and I still use it. But it shrank. It shrank considerably because I didn't know what I was doing at the time. So I should have asked. I really should have asked. Does anybody else have questions? All right, so I'm gonna ask questions of you guys out there. I would like to know. Put it in the I for some reason I cannot see the chat in Ribbler. I don't know what happened. I don't have access to it. But I could see the live chat on YouTube. So I would like to know what kinds of things that you guys like to crochet. What do you prefer to crochet? Because I've been designing mostly shawls. This was my first blanket that I've designed, and um, I'm working on cowls now. And my other question is, do you all just do crochet, or do you do Tunisian crochet, or do you knit? So is crochet your only yarn? Because I would really like to start designing things that everybody would like to see and, and make. I like crocheting mostly amigurumi, but I like to relax my hands with shawls and garments sometimes. Great. Yeah, amigurumi, I have a really hard time with amigurumi. I did amigurumi before amigurumi. I had this, I remember, oh my God, it was probably, it's definitely before I had the kids. So I'd have to say it was like 2003. I think I had just started, I was like within my first year of crocheting. And my husband is like a huge football fan. And there was in Annie's Crochet, there was a pattern for a football. I still remember it. It was like a stuffed football. And I was like, oh, I could do this. This is so easy. And there were so many like decreases and increases. And like, cause you actually had to make 6 panels, like shapes like this, and then sew them all together. It drove me nuts. I was just like, I'm never doing this again. And I think I maybe did like a couple other things, but I, hats off to you. Like, it is just, it's too intricate for me. It makes me nuts. So what have you made with the amigurumi? What do you like making? Like, because I know there's people that just make like specific things, like they just make specific things like food or people or animals. So what do you like to do with amigurumi? I am really excited to see you guys like putting. I like all of them, but mostly cute animals. Yeah, they are cute. They are really cute. I think I want to do Christmas ornaments next year, but just like the round like granny squares. Like they do them somehow, and then they stuff them with the around the styrofoam ball. I think those are really cool. I want to have like a whole tree just with all of those. I was kind of thinking, oh, I'll do like a couple a month, and then I'll have a whole tree done by the time December rolls around. But I don't know how my plans are gonna. That was a thought that probably lasted about 3 minutes in my head, and then I completely forgot it. So I have to go back and do that. When I started knitting, I had a friend that got me into knitting, and I was kind of overwhelmed about the whole sweater thing. And she's like, "Well, just make a shawl." And I was like, "A shawl? Like, I don't know if I'm really even gonna." I love shawls. I think they're so underrated. They are so versatile. You can use them instead of scarves. You can wrap them all sorts of different ways. Like I really, really enjoy them, and they're really cool to design too because you can kind of just think of something, think of a pattern or a blend of stitches, and then just and there's so many different shapes you can make. So I really, really like working on shawls. And then I got into the sweater bug. The sweater bug bit me big time. This was my first sweater I've ever made. The Weekender from Andrea Mowry. And I couldn't put it down. I was really, really into it. So and then I made probably, I don't know, I made about 5 or 6 sweaters back to back to back to back. And then over the summer, I got into designing, and that was like really exciting. And I've just been designing ever since. So I mean, I designed back in like 2010, but it was more of like to sell finished products, not to actually sell my patterns. So last year I kind of focused on, thank you. Last year I kind of started focusing on writing the patterns for publication, and that's it's kind of where I'm at now. And this blanket design started off as a gift. Like I needed a Christmas gift. I wanted to make a blanket for somebody, and I was going to originally do the original stitch. The original stitch was in single crochet, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is gonna take me forever. And then I was like hunting around the internet, and I'm like, they've got to have it like extended some other way, and I did. I found it, and then that's just basically how it happened, and it just came together in my mind for the pattern, as far as for the colors, how I was gonna work them together and alternate them, and that was it. And that's mostly how I come up with things that I just have an idea and I sketch them out, and I have a whole idea book and not enough time. I'm also working on, Jimmy Beans has a shawl club. Thank you. Am I a full-time crochet designer or do I have another job? I am actually a full-time crochet designer. I didn't plan on it. I didn't plan on it. And I'm just getting started, so it's not like, I'm knocking back millions. It's still more for the love of it. I was a professional photographer, and I did that for about 10 years. I had my own photography studio and everything, but with the combination of having to move and COVID, it pretty much done with that. So I was just looking for another thing to keep myself busy. And I said, hey, I have these patterns and I have all these ideas and all this yarn, and let me do something with it and see where it goes. And that's where I'm at. So yeah, I'm a full-time crochet designer, but I'm a mom and a wife, and so there's a lot of different things going on all at once. But it is really cool, and I really enjoy it. It's something where I can create on my own time, and it's portable, and it can come with me if I have to go somewhere, and I don't need to like depend on anybody else in order to be creative. Like as whereas like if you're, oh, you're welcome. As whereas like when I was doing the photography, I was a portrait photographer, so it was always like I was looking for people to photograph, or and it gets it gets harder, but here I could create a pattern and put it out for the world, and if you love it, you make it and you share it with us, and that's fantastic. I like seeing that. Like I like that's probably the most inspiring part of the whole process is like seeing other people make my patterns and enjoying them. And it's not being having so much technology available to us now. It's not I don't want to say it's not difficult, but there's always somebody out there willing to help or offer assistance or give you a suggestion, and I think that's great because it's just like it's at your fingertips. Whereas I think when like back in like 2010 when I was first designing and stuff like that, there was only Ravelry, and I didn't really get into like the Ravelry groups and stuff, so it was more of like people I knew. And back then it was, I would say it would be more, it was not as much self-publication as it was to like get past the gatekeepers of the magazines and the publications and stuff like that. It was a lot harder. Now it's so much easier. You just, you write a pattern, you run it through a tech editor, you have it run through testing. You ask for testers if you want to have the pattern tested and made beforehand, and then you publish it. So I think the avenues have definitely opened up for us. The market has flooded, but if you have something special, people love it. Okay, so I reached the end. And on the end, I forgot to mention, I'm going to get the right name for it. First half double crochets. Okay, does everybody know what a first half double crochet is? Or first stitches? Okay, I don't see anybody answering in the chat, so I'm going to go over it. Basically, what happens is when you get to the end, you know how you get to the end and then they tell you chain 2 and then work in the next stitch and count those chains as as that stitch. Well, and it makes it like a wonky hole and it just looks weird. Well, this gets rid of all of that, which is phenomenal. And they're called first stacked stitches, but I actually like to write all that out is like pretty crazy. So I just call them first half double crochets, first double crochets, whatever they are there. So what happens is you are going to turn your work. So you're going to get to your end, you're going to turn, and then you are going to make a single crochet in that hole, right? And now, depending on how high your stitch that you want to make next to it is how many chains you're going to make. So if you're going to make a double crochet, now this counts as the one little area. So if you're going to make a chain stitch, okay, wait, excuse me, back up. If you're going to make a half double crochet, you make one chain stitch, okay? If you're going to make a double crochet, you make 2. And if you make a triple or a treble, you make 3, okay? And basically what that does is when you make this a single crochet on the very bottom, I know this is black, I'm so sorry. When you make, actually I have to change colors. When you make this a double crochet on the a single crochet on the bottom, it fills in that hole that is created when they tell you chain X and then turn and make the stitch. Okay. Now another thing I like to do when I change colors, I could show you, because I don't know how many people know about color changing. So this is how I color change. So I have my last stitches here because this was like a half double crochet. All right. My next color is going to be this chocolate brown color, the espresso. Let me grab that. And I don't have scissors. How did I not have my scissors? Oh, I have my scissors. Okay. Here's my scissors. All right. So I cut my black yarn. I'm going to start my espresso. All right. And basically what I do is the last yarn over pull through, I change to the next color. So just lay this over like so. And so that's my yarn over, and then I'll just pull through because that's the half double crochet. And I just tighten it up. Okay. And I go along. What I also like to do is, so now you could kind of see this. All right. I turned my fabric. I'm going to single crochet, and then I'm going to chain one. And then right next to it directly is a half double crochet. Yes. There we go. And then we chain stitch over this one to create that space. And then you double crochet in here, and then you just do your chain one, double skip stitch, one stitch, double crochet all the way across. And then you can see how this here, it goes into, kind of like melts into the row below. And it makes that jagged color. Anybody have any other questions? I'm definitely thinking about doing a check-in session, maybe in a couple weeks, to see how far you guys have gotten. Would Sunday still work, or like is Sunday a good day, or would Saturday work? Like what's all of your opinions on that? We could also talk about it on the group page, so make sure you go and request to join the Fierce Hook Yarnies, so we could talk about it there too, and that's where we'll have the formal announcements. But I'd love to be able to see, maybe we could do a Zoom call, because I would love to be able to see all of your progress. Like I would like want to see it. Like here I kind of feel like I'm just talking to myself a little bit. My dog is, let me pick him up. Okay, see? Say hi to everybody. Okay, we good? All right, now you can get down. All right. So is anybody on that's actually like working on it along with me, or like I'd love to know just like how far you've gotten, because I know we're coming up on about an hour now, and I just wanted to kind of see if anybody had any other questions, and then we can move it over into the Fierce Hook Yarnies page. I don't see anybody saying anything. Okay, so I don't see any questions. I guess everybody, I'm assuming everybody is pretty much okay with the pattern and the progress of it. I am going to kind of wrap up now. I'm going to say see you later. Make sure you go over onto the Fierce Hook Yarnies group page on Ribbler, and we can continue over there, continue sharing your pattern and the colors you're using. I'd love to see what everybody's working on and how it's getting done. And then I guess we can maybe discuss putting together like a Zoom on there, a Zoom meet, so then that way I can see everybody and you can all share your progress of your projects in a couple weeks. We'll talk about more. And be sure to also add to the journal in the pattern, because there isn't an area inside the pattern itself where you can leave notes and your progress and review the pattern as well. So I would love to, see all the interaction on there and as well. All right. I hope you have a great day. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday and see you